Hey, all right, we're back to take a look at this faux lamp post. We put a nice taper on this tube to start with, which you saw me getting set up for. Ultimately took twice as much out of the far end. So we started, I think, 2 inches to either side of the center line, and I want to say I added 2 more inches. So a total of 6. So more than, what did I say before? Almost doubled? Regardless, we took a total of 6 inches out of the circumference. And you have to remember, if we're trying to reduce the diameter significantly, you're going to see 1/3 diameter reduction by however much you take out of a circumference, because of the relationship of roughly 3.142 or whatever pi, yada yada. But anyway, the idea is you have a relatively significant dart to take out of any given cylinder to see a comparable difference in diameter from one end of it to the other. Of course, that's a product of how long of a stretch we're doing. If we were going to change this from this size to that size over a short span, it's a more significant kind of a taper. The longer we carry the change, the less significant the taper. All of that pedantic mumbo jumbo aside, it kind of looks like a lamppost. And also we've got these outside planters working for us at the base. How did we do this? Once we had a nice taper here we were happy with, we used the ram board tape, which we've already talked about, holding down our aspenite and for ram board floor protection. But it has like almost no dimension. Certainly not in the theater world. And even you know, with a texture product sprayed on this, it would not only unify everything, the texture, and give it like a candy coat. If you were to polyurea spray this, or even a texture aerosol can this, it would be pretty darn good. We do get like a fish sort of a cross-section effect, so we're close to a cylinder here. And as we go, I don't know if I can get it to work with the light, but you have a kind of ellipse kind of shape happening, because that circle that it was doing is baked into the cardboard. And as you take more and more of it away and you close the edges, we had a relatively easy time of closing the edges, but it turned it from a circle into more of an ellipse, because we're taking a given arc and we're kind of kinking the far side to get the two, you know, new edges to meet. So to remedy that, we had a variety of things here. I squeezed on it with a clamp. I actually beat it with a dead blow hammer to kind of compromise the cardboard, and, you know, a jellification maneuver or a tenderization maneuver. Basically beat out the memory that it has got and allow it to form more of a circle. I have choked, stuffed, rammed in a true 3 or 4 inch piece of cardboard tube at the top, which I guess I don't need to show you the piece that I cut off. I'll just show it to you. We'll tip this down. You know, so when we're talking down here at the end, we've actually squeezed that. It went in as a circle, this thing here. And so the problem becomes how precise is your final diameter, and can you get a piece of ordinary PVC or something more robust in there as a circle? You could do better math so that in the end you can install a true cylinder that has more strength than cardboard and force it. Sometimes I've passed, so rather than butting up the two edges, I've sliced it just with a simple, singular slice, and pass one piece over the other, and then you can do something like pop rivet, because you can't get to the inside as you move down through there. But a pop rivet of appropriate size and diameter can be used to stitch something like that back together. I've also used zip ties, depending on what kind of, especially for a tree, if you're going to use a heavy texture over it, you'll never see that. And I basically laced it with zip ties on big diameters, just to be mechanically tough about sucking the two pieces together and not worrying that they should open back up again. So it depends on all these different factors. And I had some band clamps on here, hose clamps too, large diameter, to kind of uniformly squeeze. So again, once you go down the rabbit hole, it's all kind of unproven, and you can start to apply, you know, critical thinking. So again, this is a 6th or 8th time I've messed with a cardboard tube to achieve a different look. As far as what we did in here, this is a piece of 3/4 inch OSB cut to the diameter to sit down inside this first step on this cross section here. And then I took, obviously, I used this flexible seamstress's tape. Where is that son bitch? Everything was based on diameters, and that tube is not perfectly circular, and so I didn't want to just use the tape measure like a carpenter would do. I did I went hard style, and we used flexible tape to get a circumference from the, tightly all the way around the tube. And then if that was a perfect circle, what would that diameter be? And that was what was cut to the best of my ability out of this plate and a piece of LVL, which you've seen in other videos, or if you're here, welcome my theatrical nerds who don't watch my carpentry content. Did it get thrown out? LVL's ultra thick plywood. It's not in here. Sorry to waste everybody's time. Here it is. Here's the core of that. So I liked it because rather than laminating this up, this is just available as, it's like 1 3/4, almost 2 inch. And so I have a donut of this as well. This came out of the center, but I have a donut that's 2 or 3 inches wide on top of this 3/4 for a total of nearly 3 inches anyway, 2.5, 2 3/4. So the reason being, I wanted something that I could really, a lot of surface engagement. I don't want to lever this long arm on the edges of 3/4 inch plywood where it's screwed in here. Not only have I got several bulkheads in here to support this thing, I wanted a nice big meaty edge to be able to screw into and make changes. I thought there'd be more changes necessary to get this to stand like perfectly vertical, and I'd be drilling and re-drilling, but right now I have a total of 4 construction screws with washers on them through and into the edge of this LVL donut in there, and the end of the tube actually stops. It's not proud of the base at all. It's actually, I don't know, 1/2 inch or something short of that. And then the hole in the bottom of this blue tub was cut very precisely, as much as you can, based on the circumference and thereby diameter I got at that elevation that I was going to be on the tube. And then I took 1/3 from this location on the tube, and this is all, I stacked these things up first, and I got a sense of how far I'd be to where the bottom of the blue tub fell and where the bottom of the gray tub fell, and I continued to cut those holes very carefully, both in the center of these items and very specifically to diameter. And that meant, like we learned in tech class, here are the pieces that came out of here. I don't know if you can see that I did this or not, but we cut to the conservative side of the line that we draw, and then we open that up and we sand over to that line. So I did some sanding with a sanding drum in the drill gun to get us right exactly to the line. And this is a situation where I'm actually worried about the kerf of the saw, just because in the end, if you are an engineering nerd or mechanical person, you know that if I've got a series of precise circular openings of certain diameters that were conducted or created concentrically to these bodies, everything should stack up, and when it becomes tight, it should cinch all up really nicely, but it should force this taper to find a natural center line and for it to sit here plumb, which was my worry, that I don't want to come over here and have any apparent, and of course it's not absolutely perfect, this isn't aerospace, but as I looked at it, I wanted to see that it tapered and didn't stand to one side or the other. The other way to approach that is to leave yourself a ton of wiggle room and do a bunch of manipulating and checking and manipulating and checking, but the problem becomes when you have all that wiggle room and you can place it where you want it, how do you lock it up there? And I really wanted positive engagement, so there's a big heavy bead of construction adhesive here. I had a little witness mark where this kept stopping on the diameter here by chunking it down on there and stopping it off. And so then I backed it up when it was laying down and applied a bead of construction adhesive and bedded that in there and then smoothed that around, if you can see that under there. And I'm trying to think. I think those are the only 2 areas that I glued here and here. Everything else has got the screw fasteners. But in the end, this is a really nice, relatively lightweight, although you can, if you're careful as a performer, interact with it and be light about your touches and not be shaking it all over the place. And it'll be something that you can easily anchor to any given set piece. I'd like it for it to be something that lives for some time. And to that end, I'm going to be putting a light, kind of a metally, multiple paint coat texture onto it, which is what you get in a municipal setting. It gets refreshed every decade or so. You get the college kids come around and slap a new coat of enamel on it. So we want that look, and that's where this pitted texture is going to help us with that. We're going to go with an extremely dark green here, nearly black, and gloss, and I'm going to spray it. But I'm pleased with this for now. And we don't need anything at the top for our purposes this year. We're going to be filming and pushing in around like that, and maybe dolly by, or dolly by, and we just need it to feel like there's a lamppost here. We're not going to crane up or anything like that that I know of. The last thing I'm going to do is put a shoulder, I believe, on this. I think it's just too harsh. If there's a surface like that, a lot of times it's like a flange and there's bolt heads. So I'd considered putting bolt heads on. I'm still on the fence about it. I think it's just a little too small. Everything here would be larger, and I kind of like this blind look at who knows how it's attached. I've seen some like that. To put 4, you know, or something faux bolt heads on there, or even acorn nut caps and stuff. I just don't have enough surface here. So my other thought was to just make a nice shoulder, and I think to do that I'm going to use some of this pool noodle, which is a nice find. It's greater in size than the pipe insulation that I normally use. I think if I take a quarter out from, you know, here to there, and I work with, or maybe a little greater, because it has obviously some flexibility, it may take a little bit more. But in the end, we're looking for something that does a big shoulder, I don't know how to represent here, all the way around, and we'll just put the spray foam adhesive here and there and on the edges, and try to apply it so that we get a nice curved shoulder all the way around. That was my initial thought, but we may go with bolt heads, who knows. Everything I tell you, one thing, and then we come back and see what I did, and it's not quite the same. So it's an evolution. But I made a personal investment here, and this will be something that we keep on the shelves, basically at HQ as an available item for rent. So I think it represents kind of a nice, concise project that's worth getting a lot of mileage out of. And it may slow down an ordinary production if there's one, especially Singing in the Rain or something. This may be great for that show if we do a nice enough job here. It has a starring role, but that musical number is really the only time that you touch, interact, or feature it, and it could just stand off to the side for the rest, and it really could live a long time as a Singing in the Rain staple. Okay, boy, it feels like a lot of psychobabble. It's confession time. It's just so nerdy, Chazzy. Just make a like post and shut up. All right, folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you.